I model upon you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asheran, Atalanawa, Hashabath, Ba'shalawam, Towada, Aman. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, or the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you, so be it. Taha'ayim Ma'ad Asherayim Akkad, Psalms 121. Anya Harayim Mayanyam Ya O Haharyam Mayan Yabawa Isaiah Yabawa Mayahawa Sha'asha Shamayim Wa'arataza La'a Yanathan Lamawat Ragalia Yala'a Yanawum Shashamarka Hana La'a Yanawum Wala'a Yayashan Shashuama Yasharala Yahweh Shamaria Yahweh Tazalia Ayel Yad Yam Yam Ya Yawamam Hashamash La'a Hakaya Wayarat La'a Balayala Yahweh Yashamaria Makal Ra Yashmar Napasha Yahweh Yashmar Hawalakia Wabawaya Ma'itha Wa'iwalam Basham Yahawashai Tawada Aman. Psalms 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Amen.
Shema Yasharallah, heal Israel. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Shema Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, Akkad. Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Tapala Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abiyanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Haya, Shamka, Yahweh, Malakwithka, Saba'a, Ratazawanka, Haya, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Nathalanawa, Lakam, Yowum, Za, Wasalakanawa, Kababwathnawa, Kasalaknawa, Kababathyanawa, Wala'a, Habiyanawa, O Nasayawan, Abo, Hawashinawa, Marai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwath, Waha'ala, Watha Parath, La'ayulam, Aman. Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. Ha'ai Shara Matazawach, 10 Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanya, La'ah, Daisha, Laka, Paso, Wala'ah, Da'ibadam, La'ah, Dalakwaka, Shamwa, Yahweh, Alahayaka, Lashua, Zakar, Ath, Hayawum, Hashabath, La Kodashwa, Kabad, Abiyaka, Wa Amaka, La'ah, Zaratazak, La'ah, Zana'at, La'ah, Zaganab, La'ah, Za'ina, Shakur, La'ah, Zakamad, Ko, Asherah, La'ra'ayika, Aman. Exodus 20:3. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord, thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. The Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill, meaning murder. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. By Hashem Yahweh Shat the water Aman. Shabwa, be seated. Barak the Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thawada Aman, La Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, the Most High, in the name of Christ, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. I upon you, Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Barakatha Yahweh, Hagadol, Rakhawam, Abiyah, Wanara'a, Alayawan, Malak, Shol, Shamayim, Wa'arataza, Wako, Dabayim, Kayayim, Wagam, Hamashiach, Ma Yahweh, Adawanawa, Ahabnawa, Hapala, Yawaitiza, Yahawashah, Zakarnawa, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Ainka, Yasha'ala, Isanawa, Bana, wa Asap, Yasha'ala, O, Nanawa, Yam Yun, Aitha, Kayawamyun, Makwadam, Baba Kusha, Shalat, Mayaka'ala, Wahatazawadat, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Rashama, Alnawa, Baikwo, Shalat, Haroka, Sho, Yahawashai, Lanawa, Lalamadnawa, Rabim, Kakama, Thabawana, Wada Aith, Sho, Debaraka, Basham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Samyad, Wa'iwalam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel, most high, we beg you. Right now, like the days of old, please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hathawara. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Owo, Larawa. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the rams who on the call of people. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Koran, Ha'yo, La Koran, Ha'aim. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Hashaman, Zayath, Lamashak, Yasha Allah. Shabwa, be seated. All right, shalom, shalom. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters. Happy Sabbath in the Hebrew, Shah Shabbat on the Lord's Day. Most High's will. Everybody is in good spirits. All things considering, as we know. But you know, on the Sabbath day, we like to make sure that we at least present ourselves before the Most High, casting off all burdens and coming and acknowledging and giving him his praise, honor, and just due. So Lord's will, you know, most of us are able to adhere to the principles, the statutes, as far as for being able to have a day of rest. Some of us are not privileged to do that. Some of us are obligated to have to work on this day, but still trying to the best of our abilities to stay in tune in the spirit and keep those same ordinances that are in tune on the Lord's Sabbath day. So again, peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters watching on this live stream, as well as those who are also listening on the teleconference, wherever you are. You know, keep yourself safe, keep yourself in the chambers, you know, every day and not just on the Lord's Sabbath day. But again, salutations go out to those. For those who are watching newly by way of someone who's already a member or a person who's been watching this, participating with our school, this is Hayah Shirala Kanas, which is a congregation of Israel in Hebrew, which is the gathering of our nation, the gathering our people unto our Lord and Savior, unto the Most High by way of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, or Yahushua in the Hebrew, where we follow the ordinances prescribed to our ancestors in the agreement that was made between us and the Lord, that we would keep his commandments, his statutes, his judgments, all things written, containing in the quote unquote Mosaic law, as well as everything else that is also found throughout the entirety of the Bible, which consists of holy days, dietary laws, moral and civil laws that we are commanded to keep, as well as understanding our history, which is also a vital importance of us understanding our identity and what things led us to the point where we are here today in these last days. And then the things that are still to come, the prophecies, the promises that the Most High has given to his chosen people, as well as the promises for recompense that the Lord has given to the other nations as enemies of our ancestors and our people even today, for the atrocities and the things that and the crimes that have been committed. Right. So the Most High tells you in Zechariah 3:8 that he is going to rise to the prey. Vengeance is upon him. He's going to take that initiative to start casting judgments down on the earth for all of the things that have violated and misused his earth, his creation, as well as the most important, which is the people whom we are, which are so-called Negroes on their father's side, right? Going back at least 3 or 4 generations, if you can reckon or determine it. That's how you determine if you are part of this nation, by just going through your ancestry. All right. So those who were brought over on the transatlantic slave trade, also the sub-Saharan slave trade, and those scattered throughout the world that were found throughout the western coast of Africa, and those who migrated from Jerusalem during 70 AD throughout the different vast areas, and you can align yourself back to those records, then you would be of what the Lord calls the lost tribes of the nation of Israel. And not to be remiss or forgotten, then there's what we call the northern tribes, those whose ancestors also on their father's side, going back 3 or 4 generations, known today as the native indigenous Indians in the Americas, right? The different native indigenous Indians who were here before the conquistadors, Spaniards, and so forth and so on, Portuguese, Dutch came over, British came over to the Americas. You also share a portion of being of the nation of Israel, along with the quote unquote Hispanics, right? Hispanics, you know, from the Cubans, from the Puerto Ricans, from the Dominicans, a lot of those who've taken that title when they were conquered by those who came from Spain and Latin America, and at that time back in the area of Rome, and they called it Latin America, right? You call yourself Latinos because of what was come over from the European areas in throughout Rome. They now classified yourselves as Hispanics or Latin, right? But you are of the northern kingdom, northern tribes of the one nation Israel. So all of this now gives us identity. We find a lot of these records, a lot of this history throughout the Bible. So for those who are watching this newly, or rewatching it, or someone has forwarded you this clip, this is kind of what we stand on. These are our principles. This is the foundation by way in which we serve the Most High and through Yahweh Shah. All right. So my name is Kahan, or Priest Samak in the Hebrew. I'm going to be presiding over today's Sabbath service. Today will be in the Old Testament. We'll be going through the chapters of the book of Joshua, chapter 17 and 18. We'll go try to get through some of the, you know, history that's found. And as we're reading this, if you followed along or reading Joshua, some of this is now a recap of some of previous events that have happened as it pertains to the conquest of going and taking our homeland, which was the land of Canaan that was promised to us by the Most High, that he ordered Joshua and Caleb to go and take down in the Hamitic nations and begin to now claim the land that was given to us as an inheritance, right? So this is what we're reading. We've been reading throughout these last few chapters in the book of Joshua to understand how we started to divide up the land and the conquest in order to do that, right? So this is where we've been picking up. Today is the 30th of January. We're going to dive right in to Joshua, the 17th chapter. 1 second. All right. Sabbath Kahan, sending out that link. All right. So this is Joshua chapter 17 and verse 1. And it reads, and it says, there was also a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, to wit, for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, because he was a man of war. Therefore, he had Gilead and Bashan, right? So in the conquest of going throughout the land, this is going back in history to when this man Machir and his people went out and conquered that area. So now it's getting into what regions of lands would now be provided or given to them for an inheritance, right? But now when you go into this, right, it says there was a lot for the tribe of Manasseh. In the previous chapter, when we first got into Joseph, Joseph is one of the 12 original patriarchs, right? But Joseph was one of the sons who was then sold to the heathen, and he found his way in the land of Egypt, right? And then he rose to prominence and became second in command of Pharaoh, right? The Most High was with him, and Joseph was wise enough to be able to now endure the famine, was able to now, you know, the Lord blessed his hand where all the crops and things of that nature were very surplus, and they was able to store up a lot, right? Joseph was also a man of wisdom. So he rose to prominence through the spirit of the Most High, right? And then while he was there in Egypt, he was given a wife and he had 2 sons, right? So the storyline between his 2 sons is a bit interesting because not like the rest of them that have been now given lots as patriarchs, there was something interesting that happened with Joseph's 2 sons that I'll touch on real quick. So let's go to the book of Genesis real first to just get the understanding about these 2 sons. Genesis 41. Genesis, the 41st chapter. So this is Genesis chapter 41 and 50. So Genesis chapter 41 and verse 50, right? So it says, and unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for Yahweh or God said, He have made me forget all my toil and all my father's house, right? So now when he had his firstborn son, he named him Manasseh, which means made to forget. For all the headache and pain that he had to endure, being given up or mistreated by his brothers, and then sold unto heathens, and then now found his way up as a slave in Egypt, but then he rose to prominence. So now as a tribute to that, he named his son that he made to forget all of those atrocities, because now he was blessed with the son, blessed with the child, which is a blessing in itself to have children, right? So that's what the meaning of that one firstborn son name. Then it says in verse 52, and the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God have caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So now when you go into the name Ephraim, it means fruitful. Or like when we read in Genesis 49, talks about Ephraim being a fruitful bow, right? So now here's a correlation. Here it is where Joseph is now naming his son Ephraim, because while he was in Egypt, the Lord blessed him so that he would be fruitful, meaning anything that his hand touched increased above much. So now to honor those events, he named this son Ephraim to signify that. And then that name that would then become put on that child, him as a tribe, then would also now take that same spirit and vibration where they would be a fruitful tribe, right? There was when you go into the history, the conquistadors and them almost decimated Ephraim when they came over to South America and the islands in the Caribbean, and they went to Puerto Rico. They almost decimated them, killed them off, and took their wives. So that's why when you go into the prophecies of the history pertaining to Ephraim, it talks about them being a cake not turned, because sometimes you may look at them, you may look at people who classify themselves as Puerto Ricans based on what you see on the outside, but they are not true Ephraimites, right? They're what even Ephraim, the Boricuas, the real indigenous Taino Indians, what we would now know to be Ephraim, they call them Grengos because they are not of their people. But the Most High over time allowed Ephraim to become a fruitful tribe to replenish them after they was almost decimated during the conquistadors' conquest to come and start raping and pillaging the land, right? So now, going back to this, right? So now we see the meanings behind these tribes' names, right? So now again, when we go back to what we read in Joshua 17, I'm going to read it again, and then I'm going back to Genesis. I'm going to go to Genesis, the 48th chapter this time. So again, it says, there was a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, right? So when you go into the history of how we gave inheritances and how we honored the firstborn son was the one who was supposed to receive the blessings the majority of the time. That's how the Lord set the standard up within the nation. The first eldest son received the inheritance. He received the most blessings. And we kind of carry that tradition even unto this day. But there are cases, as we see in the scriptures, where that is not true to form, where the Most High intervenes and then the Most High sets a standard according to his will, right? We see that happen with Abraham, with his son Ishmael and Isaac. The Most High did not honor Ishmael with being the one who was classified as the firstborn to receive those blessings. It was going to go to Isaac. When you look at Jacob and Esau, right? Esau was the firstborn. He was the one that came out first. And the second that came out was Jacob. But fortune had it where Esau was not the one who received that blessing. It was Jacob. So now we're going to go into another instance here where Manasseh is the firstborn. And this is not where these are sons by another concubine or a son that was, going to be classified as wicked. This is just a standard that the Most High would then set up. So now let's go to Genesis chapter 48. Genesis chapter 48. And I'm going to start at verse 8. So this is now, when you do the backstory, this is now after Joseph has had his encounter with his brothers, and he's gone through this charade of trying to make sure his younger brother was now brought forth so that he can see him. And then after they revealed themselves to each other of who's Joseph, who he was, then he called for his father, and everyone now comes to Egypt, right? Because they was going and searching for food because of the famine that the Most High had put in the land. So now, after all that has transpired, now Joseph is now having or revealing to his father Jacob his grandsons, and that's what we're about to read. So this is Genesis chapter 48 and verse 8. It says, "And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, 'Who are these?'" So when it's talking about Israel, this is the man Jacob. Same thing, the man Israel. Not talking about the tribe, but talking about the man. "And Israel beheld Joseph's sons and said, 'Who are these?'" Meaning, whose kids are these? Verse 9, "And Joseph said unto his father, 'These are my sons, whom God hath given me in this place.' And he said, 'Bring them, I pray thee, unto me, and I will bless them.'" So once Jacob realized that he had grandsons by his son now, he said, "Okay, wow, bring them close, and I'm going to now bless them." But this blessing that Jacob was about to give to Joseph's sons was ordained by not Jacob. Watch what happens. It says, verse 10, "Now the eyes of Israel were dim for age, so that he could not see. And he brought them near, and they brought them near unto him, and he kissed them and embraced them." So Jacob was up there in age, and he didn't have glasses like how I have or how we have now, where when you start getting older, your eyes start getting dim and you can't see. So he couldn't really see them visually, but he knew about these sons. How so? Verse 11, "And Israel said unto Joseph, I had not thought to see thy face, and lo, God hath showed me also thy seed." Right? So now, while he wasn't even in the same area in Egypt to know if his son was alive, to know anything, the Most High came and revealed himself. The angel came and presented himself to Jacob in his old age and gave him the understanding that his son Joseph had sons. And not so much that he had sons, but there had to be something that was going to be done with these sons. And that's what we're reading about now. The blessing that the Lord had now commanded Jacob to give to his grandsons. Now, let's jump down. Actually, I'm going to continue reading. It says, "And Joseph brought them out between his knees and bowed himself with his face to the earth." So Jacob's sitting down. He brings the two boys. He's sitting there between his knees, right? "And Joseph took them both, and Ephraim in his right hand toward Israel's left hand, and Manasseh in his left hand toward Israel's right hand, and brought them near unto him." So as he's sitting there, right, here's Israel, Ephraim's right here, Manasseh's right here, right? Because it's given the perspective from Joseph's vantage point. But if I'm Jacob, Ephraim's on my left, Manasseh's on my right, right? So it says, "And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head." So here's Ephraim on his left hand, but he takes his right hand because that's the power hand, that's the righteous hand, and he lays it on Ephraim's head. Joseph was expecting Jacob to go like this, but that's not what Jacob's doing. Jacob is now going like this, right? Which would have been confusing to Joseph, because it's like, yo, what are you doing? Why is this happening? Right? It says, "And Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it upon Ephraim's head, who was the younger, and his left hand upon Manasseh's head, guiding his hand wittingly, for Manasseh was the firstborn." So it wasn't a mistake. He knew what he was doing. "And he blessed Joseph and said, God, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did walk, the God which fed me all my life long unto this day, the angel which redeemed me from all evil, bless the lads, and let my name be named on them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. So now here it is. This is how Ephraim and Manasseh are now distinguished as being a part of the 12 tribes, right? This is where you now get this understanding. Why it's not Benjamin, Joseph, Judah, Manasseh, Issachar, Zebulun, right? It's now distinguished between Ephraim and Manasseh, because here Jacob is letting us know that the Most High is the one that's now telling him that the name of the father between Abraham and Isaac now also goes on these two children, right? So now reading on, verse 17. And when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, it displeased him. And he held up his father's hand to remove it from Ephraim's head unto Manasseh's head. So Joseph, in all his wisdom and all his righteousness, he wasn't shown this information. It was shown to his father. So now as he's bearing witness to it, he's confused. Not only is he confused, he's displeased now because he's thinking his father is messing up. So he goes to grab his father's hand to go and lay his right hand on Manasseh's head because he was the firstborn. Verse 18, and Joseph said unto his father, not so, my father, for this is the firstborn. Put thy right hand upon his head. And his father refused and said, I know it, my son, I know it. He also shall become a people, and he also shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he, and his seed shall become a multitude of nations. Now, when you read this verse, don't get confused. Don't think that Ephraim as a tribe within the nation was now going to become the patriarch of a whole bunch of new nations. That's not what it's really talking about, right? Because it tells you that the tribes are going to be a company of nations within themselves. So he's just now personifying how great Ephraim would be to the rest of his tribes, right? And it plays itself out later on. That's why reading the history and understanding these is, I'm going to call them a minor detail, it's a major detail, because this is now signifying how Ephraim would be in the future. So now when you fast forward and you now come into the time of King Solomon, and King Solomon went off a bit when he started dealing with these women of heathen nations, and they caused him to go and stumble and start worshiping other gods. And the Most High's judgment was that the kingdom was going to be split, not during his reign, but after his reign. And it was going to be split between the tribe of Judah and then the tribe of Ephraim, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? So now the northern kingdom was ruled by Ephraim. Ephraim now became the head of all of the northern tribes, where Judah stayed synonymous and was the kingdom, the kingship, and he was the head of all the southern kingdom. So the Lord understood what he was doing, and he was setting the stage here of how things will progress. And it also has different layers when you peel them, because like I mentioned in the history, Ephraim was almost decimated by the conquistadors when they came down to the island of what they call a port of riches. That's what Puerto Rico means, and saw all the wealth that they had, and they thought to go and pillage the land and get rid of all the men, which is normally common when you read in war. We went through it and did the same thing as we're reading the book of Joshua. The Most High told us to go out there and kill the men, the women, the children, and the cattle even, and get rid of everything, and then we take the land. So they had that same thought in mind, but the Most High did not allow them to utterly destroy us, because we was promised something greater later on in the future. So the Lord left the remnant, and then that remnant became bountiful or fruitful to come back into the tribe that we see them are, that they are today, right? So that's just a bit of the history that we're reading now as it pertains to these two. And I'm gonna read on. It says, and he blessed them that day, saying, and thee shall Israel bless, saying, God make thee as Ephraim and Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said unto Joseph, behold, I die, but God shall be with you and bring you again unto the land of your fathers. Moreover, I have given to thee one portion above thy brethren, which I took out of the hand of the Amorite with my sword and with my bow. So now here is Jacob. Before he dies, he's now given the information to Joseph on how the standard would be set, right, between his sons, and how his sons now have elevated themselves to have their names placed upon them like the rest of their uncles, right? Because these are the nephews of the original patriarchs, but now their names are in line with their uncles. So that's why we see that when we read it in the different chapters in the books and Revelations and so forth and so on, when we see the stick that has the names of the 12 tribes. All right. So again, that's Genesis chapter 48 that we just read. I started at verse 8 all the way to the end. So let's go back to Joshua. Joshua 17 and 1. Again, it says, there was a lot for the tribe of Manasseh, for he was the firstborn of Joseph, to wit, for Machir, the firstborn of Manasseh, the father of Gilead, because he was a man of war. Therefore, he had Gilead and Bashan. There was also a lot for the rest of the children of Manasseh by their families, for the children of Abiezer, and for the children of Helek, and for the children of Azrael, and for the children of Shechem, and for the children of Hefer, and for the children of Shemida. These were the male children of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, by their families. So I'm going to pull up just to have it as a point of reference. Give me 1 second here. Just don't want to pull up the map because we always referencing different areas. I think this is it. I think this is a different map that I had before, but it should suffice for what we're talking about here. So if I zoom in a bit, going to be getting into in this area here, right? All of this is what we're going to be talking about to the left. So now, as we understand, Manasseh already had an inheritance on the eastern side of Jordan, right? Along with Gad and along with Reuben, right? They were the ones who made the agreement to now have this land because they had a lot of they had a lot of cattle and things that they wanted to use on the eastern side of Jordan. But then you had some that still went with the rest of their brothers, and they're also about to take some inheritance of land on the western side of Jordan. So when you look at it, Manasseh being the firstborn, even though he didn't receive that blessing, as you look at it, Manasseh had a wide area of land of inheritance in the in the ancient days of Israel, right? Manasseh we know to be the so-called Cubans today, right? So this is their area of inheritance. That's what we're reading about. So it talks about certain men that went up to war and had certain conquests and what was given to them. And now we're reading about the other families that come out of Manasseh from Joseph lineages that also did certain things and what was going to be allotted to them as well, right? So reading on, verse 3, it says, but Zelophehad, the son of Hefer, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, right? So now we're talking about these this specific Cuban family had no sons but daughters. And these are the names of his daughters: Mala and Noah and Hagla and Milcah and Tirzah, right? So here it is. This man, when we now get into, as we spoke about earlier, inheritance, usually it goes to your firstborn son, certain blessings, but you also give blessings and things to your other children, your other sons, if you have them, right? But the rule of standard was to start off with the sons, right? It's the same thing when you go into even power and control. The firstborn son was the one, when the father died, he now took control of the family or head of the family, right? If there was no other men around, and the mother was dead. Now she's a widow. Her son now runs the household. He's now in command. Or if he's a king, his firstborn son now ascends to the throne. This was known not just in Israelite culture, but this is also commonplace throughout all the other nations as well, right? This is what was done. But now what happens in a scenario like what we're about to read here, where a man has no sons, like me? I don't have any sons. I have daughters, 3. He has how many here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So one would say, just like me, he was trying for a boy, and it happened. He just had girls. And then the spirit had it where, or the will of the Most High had it where, he now passes on, or transitions to the spirit well. He's rested in paradise. And now what happens now with his name and his family? Because remember, everybody's now, according to their tribe and according to their family, about to get an inheritance. They're about to get land, right? That they could call their own, given to them by the Most High, because the Lord is the one who's orchestrating all of these things. So when the Lord gives you that, nobody could come or should come and say, well, you know what? I want to have this and I want to have that. So they're now going to consider and think about what would now happen for their father's lineage. So this is what we're reading about here with these daughters. Now, let's go to Numbers, the 27th chapter, because this is a nice rule. I don't understand how people make claims that the Bible is old-fashioned. The Bible kind of like is outdated. The Bible doesn't take into account things of today. What we're about to read here is still valid today. It should still be in order today. Not something that now is outdated and you can't follow this rule. No, it goes hand in hand with everything, and it stands the test of time. So this is Numbers chapter 27, verse 1, right? To go a little bit more further into the history. So it says, then came the daughters of Zelophehad, who we just read, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph. And these are the names of his daughters, Mahlah, Noah, and Haglah, and Milcah, and Tirzah. And they stood before Moses and before Eleazar, the priest, and before the princes and all the congregation by the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, saying. So that's kind of where we kind of had counsel, right? Where everybody wanted, you didn't have the courthouses and things of that nature. Sometimes we went and met outside in the front of a tabernacle, right? Or the gates. We went and brought our issues. So now they coming and they got an issue on their hands that they want the elders or the leaders to hear. In this case, it was Moses and those who was with him. Verse 3, our father died in the wilderness, and he was not in the company of them that gathered themselves together against the Lord in the company of Korah, but he died in his own sins and had no sons. So they're making a distinguishing factor about those guys who totally disrespected and went against the Most High. He wasn't a part of them, but he did have his own sins while he was in the wilderness, and he died leaving no sons, right? It says, why should the name of our father be done away from among his family, because he have no son? Give unto us, therefore, a possession among the brethren of our father. So these women, these daughters are thinking about their father's good name. Why should my father's name and his house not be able to stand amongst the rest of the families that are now getting inheritance in the land and the regions that we are now given by lot? So they're petitioning to see what should happen, because this didn't just seem right. It says in verse 5, and Moses brought their cause before the Lord, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, the daughters of Zelophehad speak right. Thou shalt surely give them a possession of an inheritance among their fathers' brethren, and thou shalt cause the inheritance of their fathers to pass unto them. So the Lord, now hearing the issue, said that these sisters is on point, right? They are right in what they're petitioning. Matter of fact, this is what you do, Moses. You give them an inheritance in their father's name amongst the rest of their brethren. That now became law. That was what was now passed down. Verse 8, and thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel, saying, if a man die and have no son, then ye shall cause his inheritance to pass unto his daughter, right? So now here is how it's now going to get even more specific, right? So the daughters of Zelophehad, Their situation was straight. Now we had to make this a whole account and put it into the law that would now stand the test of time. Verse 9 again. If he have no daughter, then he shall give his inheritance unto his brethren. So now here it is, the man, if he's now in line to receive an inheritance, give it to his daughter. Oh, he had no children, no sons or daughters, then give it to his brethren, right? Which would be his brothers or whomever is directly near of kin to him, right? Verse 10, and if he have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his father's brethren. So if he has no siblings, right, that because his children he never had any, so now give it to us. Oh, he don't have siblings, so now you go to his father's brethren. So now you go into his uncles and cousins. Verse 11, and when his father have no brethren, then ye shall give his inheritance unto his kinsman that is next to him of his family, and he shall possess it, and it shall be unto the children of Israel a statute of judgment, as the Lord commanded Moses. So now that's the order. So now if he don't even have any siblings on his father's side, then now it has to go within his kindred, right? Now we can start going up the channel and say, okay, well, who was his father and how many kids did they have, right? So that family tree spread out. So now you start going to the extra branches, and then that's who you gave that inheritance to. This is perfect, right? Because when we get into what we're talking about here in the book of Joshua, we're getting into inheritance. Inheritance is important, right? Especially when it comes to ownership. That's one of the things that we as so-called Negroes, Black people, even some of the Hispanics was deprived of on our entry coming over here to the Americas, right? For so many years, we was undervalued even as a human being. Then the Most High began to allow the spirits to wane, and then they allowed us to start working, and then we went into the military, we fought for the country, we did certain things. So now one of the, there's many different things that now has been outlined into some of the things that have now caught up today. But when you look at one of the things that we recognize, and we talked about this before, when we went out into the military during World War II, they gave out a thing called the GI Bill, right? And the GI Bill was an incentive, right? When you went to war and when you came back from war, you were going to be given certain benefits, monies, loans, ownership to buy houses and land and property to set yourself up for wealth, right? To set yourself up so that you can have something of your own to pass on down to your generations. So that was great. We as Israelites or so-called Negroes, Black people, we thought that this was great. So while we was out there putting our lives on the line, we figured that once we came back, we was now able to set ourselves up and have families and have generational wealth. But that didn't happen because when so-called Negroes came back, we was not provided that same luxury or fortune to go out there and get those benefits. The doors were shut on us, right? Where now 85% of all of those who now fought in the war and who came and got the GI Bill was all Edomites. They now took those blessings and set up themselves all across the country, all throughout different areas, and they had houses for cheap, right? It was free for them because they was getting the money from the government to go and buy these houses and go and buy these lands. And they went and started buying all up. And what happened? We was left out. And for those who did, because you know, like you read in the book of Luke, the 16th chapter, sometimes we get the crumbs. Like how Yahushua gave the crumbs to the Syrophoenician woman, a little blessing. You had a smaller percentage of us who went and got those benefits. But when you did get those benefits and you went and got this house, I forget that show that's on HBO. It just came out last year. And in the show, they kind of have a lot of kind of sorcery or whatever the heck it is. But it's really getting into like the old days with Jim Crow and different things of that nature. But there's a certain episode or a series where you see where the sister went and got a house. She bought a house in a white neighborhood. She was fortunate enough to get some money and bought this house. And now in the neighborhood, those who was in the neighborhood, of course, you know how they treated them, right? They went and did things to their car, wrote all kind of things on the ground and everything else to scare them out of the neighborhood. So we was not really welcomed to receive the benefits. And if you did receive the benefits, you was tormented till you now to get out and go back to a tenement or go back into an area where it was declassified as being of value or anything. So we really never understood or was able to really attain wealth, generational wealth or land or inheritance. But it is important based on what we're reading here, because this is what the Most High was now given to the children of Israel. And when you read these laws, the Lord said that you cannot sell this land. You can't go and give it to no one else. That's why the Lord is now putting these statutes in place based on even what these daughters have now seen. We want to be a part of this wealth too. We want to get land that we now own as well so that we can continue on. Now, let's go to Numbers, the 36th chapter. I think it's 36. Numbers 36. So I read Numbers 27 all the way to 11. So that was Numbers 27, 1 to 11. Now I'm going to Numbers 36 and 1. Right? So Numbers 36 and 1, it says, and the chief fathers of the families of the children of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, of the families of the sons of Joseph, came near and spake before Moses and before the princes, the chief fathers of the children of Israel. And they said, the Lord commanded my Lord to give the land for inheritance by lot to the children of Israel. And my Lord was commanded by the Lord to give the inheritance of Zelophehad, our brother, unto his daughters, right? So when you read like in Psalms, I forget the chapter when it says the Lord said to my Lord, that was talking about the Most High and Yahweh. As we're reading it here, this is the Most High and Moses, that the Manassite fathers, the chief fathers or rulers, are now speaking on what was now just ordained in Numbers 27. The Most High told Moses, our Lord, our leader or ruler, to go and do this as it pertains to these daughters. But they had an aha moment, right? It says, verse 3, and if they be married to any of the sons of the other tribes of the children of Israel, then shall their inheritance be taken from the inheritance of our fathers, and shall be put to the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall it be taken from the lot of our inheritance. So they realized that when these women, these daughters, anyone now fall into this situation where they have no brothers and they have no one fortunate enough to now come and take this inheritance. Now what happens is when they go and marry somebody, remember the law has it where you two become one now, right? So she, as a Manassite, goes and marries, let's say, a Judite, and now they become one. He is now head of household. He is now the one who carries the seed. So then when they have children, the children that come from that union are going to be Judites. And then they will then inherit the land from their father as product of their parents. So now how is it going to be where you have a lot that's given to the land of Manasseh? You have families that now are in this situation and they go marry outside of their tribe. So this map that we're looking at here, if I pull it back up, will kind of be a bit strange, because when you look in the middle of the land, wherever the people from that tribe, those daughters, let's just say they lived in this area. Hopefully you can see my mouse moving. Then it would be, let's say Judah, it should be a little green in there. You have all this orange, and then inside of it, it'd be a little green. And then it fell to someone else. And then inside it over here, she married a Gadite, and then it'd kind of be a little bluish. And that would just destroy the whole inheritance and the order of lot, how the Most High set it up. So this now looked to be causing confusion. And that's what the men, the chief fathers, are now understanding that will happen, because that's how it's set up, right? So now it reads on, verse 4. And when the Jubilee of the children of Israel shall be, because after 50 years, we have this thing that all things that have been on loan or debted has now been forgiven. So once that happens, it's done. It becomes in effect now. So that is permanent, right? It says, then shall the inheritance be put unto the inheritance of the tribe whereunto they are received. So shall their inheritance be taken away from the inheritance of the tribe of our fathers. And that's a problem, right? So the daughters first came up with the issue, and the Most High resolved it. Now the men who see that's going to happen, they see a potential problem. And now they want an answer on how to deal with that. Verse 5, and Moses commanded the children of Israel according to the word of the Lord, saying, the tribe of the sons of Joseph have said well. So now it's not like the Most High didn't notice, right? The Most High sees everything way before it even happens. So now sometimes he's allowing us to start reasoning within ourselves. That's why everything just can't be always cookie cut outline. We got to use the Spirit, by the Spirit, to now start figuring things out and using deductive reasoning to now make wise decisions or bring things to the forefront. And that's what happened here. So when these men came and Moses went back to the father said, you know what, Moses, these guys is on point, right? But this is what you do. Verse 6, this is the thing which the Lord doth command concerning the daughters of Zelophehad, saying, let them marry to whom they think best. Only to the family of the tribe of their father shall they marry, right? So it says now, whoever they want to marry, hey, that's on them. Whoever they see fit, whoever they love, whoever they like, whatever that may be, let them marry whoever they want. It's not going to be an arranged thing. However, they have to marry within the tribe of Manasseh, so that what these men is talking about never happens. The inheritance never leaves from out of their tribe. Verse 7, so shall not the inheritance of the children of Israel remove from tribe to tribe. For every one of the children of Israel shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. And every daughter that possesseth an inheritance in any tribe of the children of Israel shall be wife unto one of the family of the tribe of her father, that the children of Israel may enjoy every man the inheritance of his fathers. So don't get it confused. It's not saying that any daughter of a tribe within a nation, that all daughters are now forced to marry within their tribe. It's not saying that. It's saying that if you fall into this circumstance, that daughter, those daughters are now forced to have to marry within the tribe to keep the inheritance. So when we are a nation of nations, company of nations, we have a beautiful spectrum. And as it stands now, if your father have sons, 2, 3, 1 son, we know that the inheritance of the land now passes to him. Those daughters can marry who they see fit. But if they don't have brothers or siblings, they don't have anyone else to now inherit that land within the tribe, you now get it. And now once that comes and it falls on your shoulders as a daughter, you are forced to now marry within your tribe. So if this happened to a Judite sister, she has to marry a Judite man. Happened to an Ephraimite sister, she has to marry within Ephraim. If it happened to a Gadite sister, she has to marry within Gad. But now anybody else, a Gadite woman can marry a Zebulite man because that person doesn't have the inheritance falling upon them to now cause this confusion. This is where the perfect order of the Most High comes in. So then it reads on. Neither shall the inheritance move from one tribe to another tribe, but every one of the tribes of the children of Israel shall keep himself to his own inheritance. Even as the Lord commanded Moses, so did the daughters of Zelophehad. For Melchi, Tirzah, and Hagah, and Milcah, and Noah, and the daughters of Zelophehad were married unto the father's brother's sons, right? So they all married because they all got the inheritance. They all married within their tribe. And they were married into the families of the sons of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, and their inheritance remained in the tribe of the family of their fathers. These are the commandments and the judgments which the Lord commanded by the hand of Moses unto the children of Israel in the plains of Moab by Jordan near Jericho, right? Get you very specific as to where and when this decision was made. Beautiful, right? So if we were able to have wealth and land and inheritance and property, this would then stand. I would have to now contend with this as well, right? My daughters would say, well, what's going to happen? You got acres and acres of land. What am I going to do? But I have a brother who has a son, right? So now the beginnings of the ordinance that we read before, that would then apply. My nephew would then have to come in. But if I had no nephew and I had no immediate kinfolk, then this would now have to apply. They would be obligated to now follow this ordinance. All right. So let's go back. So we, even within this history, we find now that there are some laws that come about, right, with pertaining to inheritance. Actually, let me give you a few more precepts pertaining to this. Go to Deuteronomy 19. Deuteronomy, I got 3 precepts here, maybe 4, pertaining to this. Deuteronomy, the 19th chapter. And the 14th verse. Deuteronomy chapter 19, verse 14, right? Which says, thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, which they of old time have set in their inheritance, which thou shalt inherit in the land that the Lord thy God giveth thee to possess it, right? So now here it is. Once that was established, no man, and usually just like how we do now, when you got an apartment, you got a home or whatever, you put your name on it, right? And you say, this is for Zaquamalak, Bun Yahawada, right? And everyone knows that this is a Judite area now owned by the family of Zaquamalak. Same thing with Nabiyah, Bun Yahawada. It would then be another Judite land inherited by this man for this tribe. Then you would have Yahweh Canaan, Bun Yamyan, that was now a part of the Benjamite lot, because that was now his family. So once you put your name on it, that now couldn't leave. So the Lord had it as a law that thou shalt not remove thy neighbor's landmark, to say that this land or lot that he's inherited is not for him anymore. That's what Esau has done. He's gone and taken people's landmarks, people's land that was there, that they purchased, that they own. They have now either come and said, you know what, either due to eminent domain, right? We want to build something here. So we know that that was your property, your land. We are now going to confiscate that and use it for our purpose. That's wicked, according to what the law says, because the Most High's earth is his to give to whom he will. It tells you in Deuteronomy 32:8, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, he separated the nation. He gave them, everybody, their own land. The Lord did that. Moab, you over here. Ammon, you over here. Esau, y'all going to be over here. Japheth, y'all going to be here. It was Edom that went and disrupted that whole thing when you read the Bible and history, and began to take other people's property and land and ownership for themselves. This is a direct violation of what the Most High has set as a standard. This is why we say this is not in God we trust. They don't follow what the Lord has set up because they don't keep these same ordinances. Go to Proverbs chapter 22. Proverbs chapter 22. Verse 28, which also says, remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set, right? The ancient landmark, this is for us, for Israel. We know that the other nations, which was not given this law, are not abide by this. But for us, we were never to remove anyone else's land. And we read through the history, we'll see that that was done, right? Israel, sometimes we did that. When someone didn't have a husband or a son or a person, and now they were fatherless or widows, people took advantage of them and went and took their land. And they violated or sinned against the Most High and their neighbor by doing that, which was never supposed to be done, right? So that was 22 and 28. Also, 23. So that was Proverbs 22, 28. Also go to 23 and 10 to 11. So Proverbs 23, 10 to 11, it says, remove not the old landmark and enter not into the fields of the fatherless. For their Redeemer is mighty, he shall plead their cause with thee, right? So don't think to go and take advantage of somebody who's fatherless or who's a widow and who don't have anyone to vouch or to speak up for them. Because if you do that, the Most High says that he's going to plead their cause. He's going to be their voice and he's going to jack you up, right? He's not going to take all the hurt and pain, and now you're going to have to bear that iniquity, right? Now, with this comes responsibility too. Go to 2 Corinthians. 2 Corinthians chapter 12. Some wise words from our brother Paul, right? 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 14. All right. So 2 Corinthians chapter 12 and verse 14 says, behold, the third time I am ready to come to you, right? So this is how Paul, wrote letters about him dealing with the church, right? Setting up the foundation of the church. So he now is like a father figure to the people that was in the church. They were like his children in the spirit, but not physically, spiritually. So now he says, but hold, the third time I am ready to come to you, and I will not be burdensome to you, for I seek not yours, but you, right? So Paul was very big on not making it that everyone had to curtsy to him, meaning that they had to give him things, or that he was requiring of certain benefits and gifts and things for them to give to him all the time. He was very big on that. He was always the one who had his own job and was looking to go and provide for the church. It says in another scripture, he says he robbed from other churches to give to this one. Not literally, it's just his choice of words, meaning he took from them what was given to him to give to other churches, never for himself. It was always to distribute to others as they saw fit. So this is what Paul has in mind. But now watch how he words this. It says, for I seek not yours, but you. For the children ought not to lay up for the parents, but the parents for the children, right? So Paul's going back into the same depths of what we're reading about here with inheritance and land and ownership and property and things of that nature. He was like, listen, it was never set up that the children, when you have children, that they now have to go out there and are required to go and buy and get land and things of that nature and set that up for the parents. That's backwards, because we know the parents at some point in time, they're going to, in normal times, die before their children. So it was always the responsibility of the parents to go and lay up in store for the children, right? That's how the Lord had it set up. Now, with this, you can link Proverbs chapter 13. Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 22. Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 22. It says, a good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just, right? Two pieces to this verse. It says, a good man will leave an inheritance not to his children, but to his grandchildren's that will come up. That's what they call that, generational wealth, generational fortune, or generational inheritance. A good man will have that in his thought. But now you got some people who are wicked, right? The Lord says those who now have property and things that are wicked, the Most High is going to give that to the just man. They're going to inherit those things. But here we're focusing on the first half of this precept. So now when you look at how the dynamics of what we are as a nation, we have been at a disadvantage because we have not been given the privilege or the opportunities or the different mediums in order to do what we should be doing, right? We haven't been taught this in order to do this effectively, right? Some of us are still learning this. Some of us is now trying to figure out what are the best ways and opportunities that I can go and accumulate some form of wealth, that I can accumulate some land, right? And sometimes you need other people who are a little bit wiser, who've done the research, who check these certain things out, and they can now give you guidance. I give applause and kudos to the brother Manashah, who, he's been fortunate enough to have understanding on some of these things, and he posts things in the chat about how to get gold and how to get silver and how to invest in certain things, we know that this setup is going to get destroyed where we are here in America. Give me 1 second. Let me go check this real quick. Give me 1 second. All right. So again, as I was saying, we know that this setup is going to be destroyed at a certain point in time, right? That's the prophecy of the Most High. The Most High is coming, Christ is coming to send the angels and do everything else. But like it tells you in the book of Judges, the 5th chapter, we are rehearsing the righteous acts. So it doesn't preclude us from going and trying out to do this, even today, starting tomorrow, starting next month, or what have you, to go and find out where you can get and do these things. I commend the brothers from HOI. I've seen the brother Chief Ephraim. They went down to Georgia and they went and bought land and property, right? That didn't stop them because they understand the same things that we all understand, that this is going to be destroyed, right? The Lord is going to allow the missiles to come and destroy this place. But rehearsing the righteous acts, they went and bought land, right? And now they're cultivating the land, cutting down trees. I've seen the videos. They're about to put things on there. That's beautiful that they now can say, this is my own. We don't know how long we're going to be here. So now he can say, if the Lord calls his spirit, you know what? This now I can give to my kids, right? And they understand the precept and they understand the concept of what the Lord is doing here as far as for how we should rebuild and how we build a nation, right? We can't now, sit back and be aimless and just say it is what it is. No, we still got to try to fight and learn and acquire and do the things that we was commanded. That way we can actually understand what it means to do it by applying it, right? So, to those who watching, those who listening, right? In anything, form or fashion, if you have the tools, you got the links, you got the books, you got the wisdom. That's how each one teach one. Share it, put it out there, right? Let others know. Certain things about herbs, let it be known. Or health, let it be known. Finances, let it be known, right? Land and things, let it be known. Building certain things, let it be known, right? Technology, let it be known. There's a lot of things in different areas that we can now learn from and then build ourselves up, right? So again, this is the understanding about the depths of what we're reading when we read in Joshua. We go through like, oh yeah, this person got that land and they got that land. And I'm like, okay, yeah, they got land. All right, that was then. But there's some weight to it. There's some brevity to what we're reading and how that correlates to us in these last days. So it's good. You know what? Go online and check out. It's like, these brothers bought some land. Let me call up Chief Ephraim or send him a note or find somebody who knows them and see what did they need to do. How much did they spend? What did they get a loan? Was it difficult? What avenues they had to go and do? Word, it was that easy. I can go get an acre for what? $400? Where I'm just going to buy it. $400. At least I got it for $400. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I can figure that out later on. Certain things like that, you now can start getting the motors turning on what you want to do, but making sure that you follow these precepts to keep everything in a perfect line without any flaw or sin. All right. So that was Proverbs 13:22 to link what we just read in 2 Corinthians 12 and 14. Now, let's go back to Joshua. I just wanted to kind of touch on that, a lot of those precepts, because it kind of hones in on some of what we're reading. And then we just kind of get into some of the distribution of land. So now we back at Joshua chapter 17, and we at verse 4 now, which should kind of pick back up right in line after everything that we just read. It says, and they came near before Eleazar the priest and before Joshua the son of Nun and before the princes, saying, the Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brethren. Therefore, according to the commandment of the Lord, he gave them an inheritance among the brethren of their fathers. So we read what the statute said. Now, as they're getting their inheritance, now it has to be put into effect. And they reminded Eleazar and they reminded Joshua and said, hey, this is what the Most High said. What are we going to do? And they said, okay, fine. Y'all get that lot or that land over there as an inheritance. Verse 5. And there fell 10 portions of Manasseh beside the land of Gilead and Bashan, which were on the other side Jordan, because the daughters of Manasseh had an inheritance among his sons, and the rest of Manasseh's sons had the land of Gilead, right? So now it's going to go into, just what was divvied up amongst the tribe of Manasseh, right? It says, and the coast of Manasseh was from Asher unto Mikmathoth, that lieth before Shechem, and the border went along the right hand unto the habits of Entapoa, or Entapoa, right? So if I bring it back up, I'm not sure if this map doesn't get too deep into the specifics of some of the lands. You do see Shechem here toward the south area, so it's just now going into the actual borders of what land areas will be given to the half tribe of Manasseh on the west side of Jordan, right? That's what it's getting into here. Verse 8. Now Manasseh had the land of Tekoa, but Tekoa on the border of Manasseh belonged to the children of Ephraim, right? So that would be somewhere here along the border here, but it's not named. So it's like, listen, this was Manasseh's, but it now fell on Ephraim's side, right? It belonged to the children of Ephraim. And the coast descended unto the river Kanah, southward of the river. These cities of Ephraim are among the cities of Manasseh. The coast of Manasseh also was on the north side of the river, and the outgoings of it were at the sea, right? So like I mentioned last week, or the week before, or a couple weeks before, this is an adaptation of what the actual borders look like. It's not, the totality of what it looked like, because I showed a couple different maps and things pressed forward to here. If you see here, and this one, they fully didn't even take down the Philistines yet. This is kind of stretched a little bit farther to the west, but we haven't seen it. So I wanted to just pick up one that kind of showed one specific area that's going to kind of have some relevance when we read later on in the 18th chapter, right? So again, it says in verse 10, southward it was Ephraim's, and northward it was Manasseh's, and the sea is his border, and they met together in Asher on the north and Issachar on the east, right? So now it's just going into, how far up, as far as for where they went, their area. We see here, as far as for the different areas that's been given, going all the way up. And then over time, things is going to be further defined as for what happens with certain areas based on the tribes. Again, like I said, may not be specific to detail, but it's in a general case, right? It's like when we have the Yahushua picture. We're not saying that that's what Yahushua looked like, but it kind of fares more to what you read in the scriptures, but not 100%. We don't know how long his chin was, or how big or small his lips were, how wide his nose were. We don't know those details. We only get the description of the color of his skin and his eyes. So we kind of make some form of an inspiration. Same thing with some of these map makers. Now, verse 11. And Manasseh had in Issachar and in Asher Beth Shean and her towns, and Ibleam and her towns, and the inhabitants of Dor and her towns, and the inhabitants of Endor and her towns, and the inhabitants of Taanach and her towns, and the inhabitants of Megiddo and her towns, even 3 countries. Yet the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land. So when you read, or we've been reading for a few of these chapters, you'll see that in certain areas, when they went to go and conquer the land, they were not able to drive out a lot of those Hamitic people. And you read later on in Judges, where you find out that the Most High purposely had it so that they could not drive them out in order to test them, prove them, to see that, hey, you have these other nations here. Let me find out if you're going to follow their ways, or give your sons to their daughters, or your daughters to their sons, as I commanded in the scriptures not to do. So in order to have that proof, we had to have some of the nations amongst us within our cities and in our regions to now prove whether we stood with the Most High or not, or if we would, sin or not, right? So that's why you read, or we kind of reading a lot of that. We were not able to drive out all the inhabitants. We were able to own and control the area, but not get rid of everything, not get rid of everybody, right? We left some over here and we left some over there. So you know what? Forget them. We now got the main areas, and we control the import and export and everything that's going on. They got to come see us. And not only will they have to come see us, we're going to force them to do something that we're going to read about a little bit later. Verse 13. Yet it came to pass when the children of Israel were waxing strong that they put the Canaanites to tribute, but did not utterly drive them out, right? So that's what happened. They had to pay a tax, right? They had to pay a bounty every so often, or whatever that tribute was. They now had to come and give them that pay, or that tax. So when we look at what Esau does, it's not like, we didn't do the same. The thing about Esau's tax, right, is they're taxing land that's not theirs. We was taxing land that was ours, that was given to us as an inheritance. Esau goes and conquers another people, take their land, and then tax the people whose land it was to begin with for them being on their own. That just doesn't make no sense, right? That's what was going on here and in abroad and in the different places. We was doing this with the land that was given to us by the Most High, right? You don't read Israel throughout the scriptures going into other lands to conquer a people, to take their inheritance and then tax them on their own land. We didn't do that, right? Because we understood the ordinance and the setup of how the Most High did it. That's what you're seeing now is going on in the earth. People will go to a far region, take it, and then tax you, and take all your natural resources, all the things that you had that was freely given to you. You can go into the different valleys and different trees and take fruit. Now you can't go do that. That's your land, and you can go and pluck a fruit off the tree. Now you're saying I can't. I gotta come buy it from you. What is that? That don't make no sense. This was my land, and you came over here and you took it, and now I gotta go and get which was given to us from you at a lofty price, right? That's not right. So what we're reading here, what they did to these Hamitic people, because this land was not for the Hamitic people. It was supposed to be for Israel as ordained by the Most High, not by man, but by the Most High. Reading on, verse 14. And the children of Joseph spake unto Joshua, saying, why hast thou given me but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing I am a great people, for as much as the Lord hath blessed me here too. So they're complaining about the land that's given. Why are you just only establishing one area? So this is before the divide. So Manasseh had area on the east side, and now here it is, they come on the west side, and the lot is just for both of them. So that's why we're reading about Ephraim in this area and Manasseh over in this area and this, that, and the third. And as they're looking at it, they're like, hold on, this ain't right. Why we only get one lot? We got a lot of us over here, man. It's a lot of Manasseh over. It's a lot of Ephraim. We shouldn't just have one, right? Verse 15, and Joshua answered them, if thou be a great people, then get thee up to the wood country and cut down for thyself there in the land of the Perizzites and of the giants of Mount Ephraim, if Mount Ephraim be too narrow for thee. So what Joseph is saying is like, all right, cool. I hear you, but if y'all be too great of a people, then go and conquer those Perizzites. Go take their land, right? And then take it for yourself. They are wood mountainous area. It's a good place over there. Go and take that for yourselves, and then you can divide up your lot, right? A good solution. Verse 16, and the children of Joseph said, the hill is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites that dwell in the land of the valley have chariots of iron, both they who are of Beth Shean and her towns, and they who are of the valley of Jezreel. So now they're having that same spirit when our ancestors first went into the land. They was like, hey, looking, and they're like, man, I don't know if I really want to go up to fight them people, man. Matter of fact, Joseph, that's not enough for us. Matter of fact, look at what they got. They got all kind of great weapons of war. How are we going to go up and fight them? Nah, that's not a good option for us, is what Ephraim is pretty much, or Joseph is pretty much saying, to now get more than what was now allotted to them. Verse 17, and Joshua spake unto the house of Joseph, even to Ephraim and to Manasseh, saying, thou art a great people and has great power. Thou shalt not only have one lot only. So he's reaffirming that, listen, you guys is right in what you're saying. Y'all shouldn't just have one land. Y'all too many. Y'all are great people and got a lot of power. Y'all should have 2 lots. Verse 18, but the mountain shall be thine, for it is a wood, and thou shalt cut it down, and the outgoings of it shall be thine. For thou shalt drive out the Canaanites, though they have iron chariots, and though they be strong. So listen, don't worry about that. Y'all going to take that land. I don't care what you say. Y'all going to go take that land, right? I don't care what they have. This is what the judgment is, right? I don't care how afraid you are. Go take it. Link this up with Deuteronomy 20. Deuteronomy, the 20th chapter. And the first verse. So Deuteronomy 20 and 1. It says, when thou goest out to battle against thine enemies and seest horses and chariots and people more than thou, be not afraid of them, for the Lord thy God is with thee, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. So forget about their iron chariots and all the different things that they have. The Most High is going to be with you when you're going to go take this land down and conquer the people. So that's the charge now that was given to Joseph, meaning Ephraim and Manasseh, to go and expand upon their lot. So all of what we're reading now so far, this had not, the different colors here, this had not even been established fully yet, right? We're just reading a portion of it. This is the after effects of what we're seeing. But as we're reading it now still had to manifest itself, all right? So now that was Deuteronomy 20 and 1. So I'm going to continue because this chapter, it's not so much. Get through this quick. So this is Joshua chapter 18. You need to go grab something, go grab something. But we're going to continue on. So let's jump in directly into Joshua chapter 18 and 1. It says, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there. And the land was subdued before them, right? So all Israel that was there at that time set up and established themselves right here in this region that will become the lot given to Ephraim, this area here called Shiloh. That's where the tabernacle or the Ark of the Covenant and everything was set up and established right here, right? So now I'm gonna jump to 1 Samuel just to prove this, and it stayed for some time, all the way until throughout the Judges and leading up to the time when we would get a king. So this is 1 Samuel chapter 4. First Samuel chapter 4 and verse 3. So this is when we was in battle mode fighting against the Philistines, right? The Philistines came, or we went to go fight against the Philistines at this time. Now, as we're going to fight against the Philistines, this is what happened. Verse 3. And when the people were come into the camp, the elders of Israel said, wherefore have the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh against us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies, right? So now they realized that in this battle, we was not fortunate enough to conquer the Philistines. And we thought and said, hey, maybe we need that Ark of the Covenant. right? The priests sometimes rolled with the Ark of the Covenant when we went to battle. We didn't do that this time. Somebody go back to Shiloh and fetch the Ark of the Covenant out of the tabernacle that we established based on what we're reading right now in Joshua chapter 18, right? This is before the temple, right? We had a tabernacle in the wilderness. Now this is the tabernacle in Shiloh in the land before we were able to get an actual temple established. So this is where we read the beginnings of that. So now let's go back to Joshua chapter 18 and 1 again. Deuteronomy 18 and 1. So it says, and the whole congregation of the children of Israel assembled together at Shiloh and set up the tabernacle of the congregation there, and the land was subdued before them. And there remained among the children of Israel 7 tribes which had not yet received their inheritance. And Joshua said unto the children of Israel, how long are ye slack to go and possess the land, which the Lord power of your fathers have given you, right? So everything had already been mapped out. This is your land, this is your land, this is yours, this is yours, this is yours, go and take it. But some people were slack, they didn't go and move on it. So now time goes by and Joshua's looking like, what the heck is going on? Why y'all taking so long to go and claim what is yours? To go and take your rightful heir, your rightful inheritance, I should say, within the promised land. Verse 4, give out from among you 3 men for each tribe, and I will send them, and they shall arise and go through the land and describe it according to the inheritance of them, and they shall come again to me, right? So if you got some that's a bit hesitant, because like we read with Ephraim and Manasseh, they was a little bit hesitant to go and take the land that would now expand their lot. So then you had the other 7 tribes, it was told what they was going to get, but they didn't move. So maybe it is they're afraid. Maybe it is they need to do a little bit of recon or a reconnaissance mission to go scope, scout, and check out the land. So Joshua says, of those 7 tribes, give me 3 men, and I'm going to send them out into the different areas so that they can now bring back word on what the terrain looks like, what the people look like, what's going on, so that you can now get a better understanding on now how you wage your war to go take your inheritance. Verse 5, and they shall divide it into 7 parts. Judah shall abide in their coast on the south side, and the house of Joseph shall abide in their coast on the north. Ye shall therefore describe the land into 7 parts, and bring the description hither to me, that I may cast lots for you here before the Lord our God, right? So after they went and got the report and started giving out what was going on in the different regions, you take this responsibility, you take this responsibility, bring it back, and then I'm going to have the Most High then now start casting lots and now determining what goes where and who goes where according to tribe and families, right? Verse 7, but the Levites have no part among you, for the priesthood of the Lord is their inheritance. And Gad and Reuben and the half tribe of Manasseh have received their inheritance beyond Jordan on the east, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave them, right? So that's what we were showing right now. These half tribe of Manasseh, Gad, and Reuben had their possession. And now we got to go and start dealing with everybody else to go physically claim their land, right? So now it says, verse 9. It's a lot. Verse 8. It says, oh, just to remind everybody, remember, the Levites don't get an inheritance because they were separated out before the Lord. They were provided the suburbs of the tribes, right? They were given certain areas for their cattle and different things of that nature, and then certain dwelling places in the cities. But they had no ownership of land within that whole region. That's why when you look on the map, you don't see any breakout for Levi, because they was just given different sections within every tribe so that they can minister and conduct the priesthood, right? Because they had to be scattered throughout all the tribes, right? Or a good portion of the tribes, right? So now, reading on, verse 8. And the men arose and went away, and Joshua charged them that went to describe the land, saying, Go and walk through the land and describe it and come again to me that I may here cast lots for you before the Lord in Shiloh. And the men went and passed through the land and described it by cities into 7 parts in a book and came again to Joshua to the host at Shiloh, right? So back here in biblical times, we kept records. It says they went and walked and followed just like Joshua said, and then did sketching and took down notes and information and kept it in a book, right, as records. So now they're coming back and now they're giving their report and they have the record in the books. So now they open up their books and they're saying, hey, such and such, this here and there. And then now, just in case you forgot, it's recorded. That man now step up. He had his and he gave the information in the sense of all that what he saw and all that now transpired. That information was given to them by word coming out of the book, right? The record. Verse 10. And Joshua cast lots for them in Shiloh before the Lord. So we know lot is like a chance thing. However they did the lot, meaning they threw certain things up or they pulled straws or they did this, the Lord was the one who now made the determining factor, whether it be the angel or some kind of vibration or energy where the Lord said, no, this is this and such, right? Joshua didn't have that control of it, but the Most High did, so that now it can remove himself for being, favoritism or whatever. The Lord set that up. Verse 11, and the lot of the tribe of the children of Benjamin came according to their families, and the coast of their lot came forth between the children of Judah and the children of Joseph, right? So now you see it here on the map as it's just describing that the lot of Benjamin is going to be between Ephraim and Judah, right? It says Joseph, but it's talking about, Ephraim, Manasseh up here to the north, and then to the south, here is Judah. And then right here in the middle in that deep blue is Benjamin, right? That's how the Lord now, according to his wisdom, started to divide up the land. Verse 12, and their border on the north side was from Jordan, and the border went up to the south side of Jericho on the north side, and went up through the mountains westward, and the goings of Slot and the goings out thereof were at the wilderness of Beth Aven, right? So again, some of these names is not on this map. It's good to get a atlas. So like I could have put it up on the screen, but to get an atlas to see the distinguishing areas on the map to kind of point out exactly where the actual borders are, right? Reading on, 13. And the border went over from thence toward Luz, to the side of Luz, which is Bethel, right? So now when you read about Bethel, it's interchangeable with the name Luz, right? So if you see Luz, it's really talking about Bethel. Bethel is the same, right? Again, it should be on this map in here, but I'm surprised it's not on here because Bethel is a very reputable location when you read it throughout the Bible. So then it says, and the border descended to Ataroth Adar, near the hill that lieth on the south side of the nether or the lesser bottom portion of Beth Horon, right? It says, and the border was drawn thence and compassed the corner of the sea southward, from the hill that lieth before Beth Horon southward, and the goings out thereof were at Kithjath Baal, which is Kithjath Arim, a city of the children of Judah. This was the west quarter, right? So that would be somewhere in that area over there. But it's not, again, highlighted on this map here. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up a different one. Give me 1 second here. Let's see if it's on this one. Bear with me 1 second. Thought I had it here, but apparently not. Oh, here we go. All right, so let's see. Nope, not in this one. Nope, not in this one. One more. I'm looking for the real distinguishing areas here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Nope. All right, so let's continue on. All right, so back here in Joshua 18, we have verse. Turn that down a bit out. Give me 1 second. It's good. All right, so at verse 15, it says, in the south quarter was from the end of Kirjath Jearim on the border, went out on the west and went out to the well of waters to Nephtoah. And the border came down to the end of the mountain that lieth before the valley of the son of Hinnom, and which is in the valley of the giants on the north, and descended to the valley of Hinnom to the south side of Jebusai on the south, and descended to Ig-Regel, right? So when it talks about the giants, it's talking about the Hamitic people, the Hamitic tribes that are very tall. You see them even today, that you have them in certain regions, that they are a family or people of very tall stature. It's not to say that there's no other nation of people who have tall people. You have some in Moab like Yao Ming, and they have other. I've seen a woman, she was 7'6" from Moab. So you have tall people in every nation. But this was just describing the people that were in certain areas as a tall tribal family of people that was now inhabiting that land, right? And then it says on the south side of Jebusai, right? So when it's talking about Jebusai, when you look at the map, Jebusai is really talking about Jerusalem, right? The Jebusites were the ones who had control of this area. That was the name of the city before we conquered it and called it Jerusalem. Jebusai here is, as it says, on the south side of Benjamin's lot, right? So that's what they're showing here. So you see Bethlehem, and then you see Jerusalem, which is really Jebusai. Verse 17, it says, and was drawn from the north and went forth to En-Shemesh, and went forth toward Gililoth, which is over against the going of Adumim, and descended to the stone of Bohan, the son of Reuben, right? So now it's getting into certain specific man that was now had a location or a stone or landmark in that area that came from one of the sons of Reuben, right? So a lot of these names, if you're a person who pays attention to detail, some of these names, you know, have a lot of importance in other storylines and clears up some information when you read it in another storyline to understand not just only the geographical location, but also the historical reference that now caused that to be highlighted as a point of presence in another story. So that's why it's good, you know, we read all these names and you're like, man, I could say them. I could never say some of these names. These names is crazy. I can't say it. But outside of that, it still has some relevance, right? Well, not some relevance, but a lot of relevance as it pertains to other issues. Verse 18, and passed along toward the side over against Arabah northward, and went down into Arabah. And the border passed along the side of Beth Hogla northward, and the outgoings of the border were at the north bay of the Salt Sea, at the south end of Jordan. This was of the south coast. Salt Sea, talking about the Dead Sea, as we see here on the map. Salt, because it had a high level of salt there. Nothing could live, no fish, no nothing. It was just dead. That's the same area that you'll see people in the malls and different shops, and they'll say, hey, you know, we got this cream or we got this thing that comes from the Dead Sea. It's good to put on your hands and your body and your face, that really takes all the impurities and the things that's in your skin out, because a high concentration that's in that area, they have now used it for, you know, cleaning what's the word I want? A purifying agent, right? You got some people that travel over to Israel and they go to this area, to the Dead Sea, and they go in the Dead Sea, right? You have some people who go put a mud mask and do certain things in certain areas. People go and they just stay in the Dead Sea. And it's so high and concentrated, you could just float, right? It's like how sometimes when you out in the ocean, if you in the middle of the ocean, the salt concentration, cause your body buoyancy and you rise to the top. So when you out in the Dead Sea, it's so high in concentration that you just float right on the top of the water. Like if a person didn't know how to swim, right, you wouldn't have to worry too much about it there unless you panic, because you just be floating right at the top. And then people go and put it on and they make different products and things for people to try. But let's come back. Verse 20 now. And Jordan was the border of it on the east side. This was the inheritance of the children of Benjamin by the coast thereof, round about according to their family. So we read about Joseph's, Ephraim and Manasseh, and now we've gotten into Benjamin, right? And all of this is not by chance, not by choice. This is all by the Most High, right? Because Joshua said that he now went and got the information, and then he did it by lot and let the Most High determine what it was going to be. Verse 21. Now the cities of the tribe of the children of Benjamin, according to their families, were Jericho and Beth Haglah and the valley of Kenez, and Beth Arabah and Zarim and Bethel, and Avim and Parah and Ophrah. There you go. This is where Oprah get a name from. Almost like it, right? Ophrah. And 24. And Chepar Ha'am, Noah, or Noai, and Ophni, and Gaba, 12 cities with their villages. So as we were reading before, in each area, it even highlights how many cities was in each lot, right? And that's what we're reading. In certain regions, you got some villages over here, you got cities over here, then you got cities over here, and it's giving you the full number. So if somebody was, really astute and wanted to go and get every tribe, they can get every tribe, line them up, go back into the scriptures, and then put a spreadsheet, here's villages, here's cities, here's suburbs. And then you can now highlight how many each tribe had, and then get the full number of what was going on, at least back then when Joshua was going through this, right? It kind of be a nice little art chart if it's not already out there on the internet. Verse 25. Gibeon and Ramah and Beth Salak, Be'aroth and Mizpah and Chaparah and Mazah and Rickham and Irpeel and Ta'ala and Zelah and Eleph and Jebusai, which is Jerusalem, which we just highlighted a little while earlier. Gibeath and Kirjath, 14 cities with their villages. This is the inheritance of the children of Benjamin according to their families, right? So again, this is going into the land inheritance that was given to the tribes, and then also the importance of inheritance and what it would now mean. This is going to be something that's, we're going to look and see in the kingdom. This still stands, which in theory it should stand because the Most High set it up. Now, we know the Most High could then say, you know what? Now I've expanded every tribe's land, right? Your land region is now going to stretch further. It's going to do this because the Most High can do what he wants. But according to what we're reading here, right now, this is what it's supposed to look like to a certain extent, right? Based on everything that's written, not so much on what's on the screen, because like I said, it's not 100% to detail because it's just some man's, coloring, and the line may not be there, may not be as curved, but this is what we would now know it should still be today if we was to go back as a nation to reclaim the land, right? Based on the description that's in the Bible along with its borders. All right. So that concludes the 18th chapter of Joshua. Next week, we'll be in Acts. Let's see if I have it here. We'll be in the book of Acts. Chapters. Oh, I got the wrong one. If anybody has it up, that's on the live stream. You can put it up there while I'm still looking for it real quick. I had it here. Yahweh, brother Kahan Yahweh Kanan went and took it. But I know in the book of Acts, I want to say it is 24, 25, but could be wrong. If anybody's posted it, let me check. Anybody has what we're reading? I don't have it up real quick. I know it's in the book of Acts. While that's still being gotten. For those who are now trying to set, we in Esau's so-called New Year, but we still are a month or so away from our New Year. But just as a heads up, and for planning, right? The Passover coming up, right? And I say this now so that everybody can start planning, getting your Passover dues in order, right? We know that each family is required to provide, as it says in Deuteronomy, whatever you are able to do, but we set the standard at 200 for the Passover. Passover dues is 200 because it is different from the other high holy days as it pertains to like first fruits and tabernacles and dedication, where the service of it is traditional, but Passover, it's according to a certain Seder meal and the things that the rites that have to go with it. So we normally go out and acquire and purchase those things. Last year, we didn't have it, but we still provided the same dues, right? Because of the corona, we couldn't come and congregate into a location. So everybody was, had to go out there and do it on their own. We don't know what's going to happen coming up in this, what the Most High is going to have happen coming up in around the time for this year's Passover. But we still plan for it and still are obligated to provide the offering for the first fruits, for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, known as also as the Pesach, right? So the new year, the first new moon of the new year is going to be March 12th. We will have a calendar that's going to go out. I'm just putting it out there just so that folks can have as a record. March 12th will be the new year. It's going to be a Friday night. And Kahan, whoever's online, if it's Elder Zaquan or any of the other Akim, just correct me if I'm wrong on my dates, but this is what I'm going off of based on what I had already. So March 12th will be the new year. The new moon for the new year, that Friday night. And then the 26th, 2 weeks following that, will be the Passover. March 26th will be the Passover at evening. And then the closing, that's the opening. And then the closing will be on the 8th. The 1st of April. So the opening of Passover is the 26th, sundown, and then the closing service is the 1st of April, so-called, what do they call it? April Fool's Day, as they say, right? The 1st of April, and then the Passover itself ends on the sundown on the 2nd. All right. So just to make sure that you have those dates, but to plan ahead and think upon what things you need to have in order for that. We'll give you the calendar for the new moon. Will be coming out. For the new moon calendar as well as the high holy day calendar, so that you can start setting things in order with work and other things. You've taken vacation, what have you. You understand what is surrounding those travel plans or things that you may need to do. So again, I'm just throwing it out there. We'll start reminding, getting more information out pertaining to the other days as we get closer. So Tawada to Akim for confirming Acts 24 and 25 for next week's Sabbath service lesson. And as just a reminder to the congregation, for those who are unaware, we did get word, for those who know the brother Zakar. He did unfortunately pass yesterday morning. It was, from my understanding, it was something health related. You know what they said according to Esau's autopsy that he had a weak heart, as the information that I received. So, you know, it was very timely because, you know, brothers and sisters have said, you know, I just spoke to him the day before and he was telling me this, that, and the third. And then all of a sudden, you know, the next day, things of that nature happened. So as we talked about in the class this evening, it's important to not only build up your spiritual house, to take care of your spiritual house, to watch and safeguard the things that are coming into your environment, coming into your spirit, that you make sure that you receive in the proper information and then you apply the proper rules and commandments and things, but it also applies to your physical. So, you know, we as Israelites have been a people who never really trusted Esau with health because of all that has happened to us in the past. That's why a lot of us are very hesitant, even with the corona vaccine, very reluctant to go and trust Esau to get the shot because of certain things that have done to us in the past. However, with that being said, it doesn't preclude us from being proactive. The key word here, proactive on your physical store, your physical storehouse, meaning to make sure that things are functioning in the way that they are. So those of us who are fortunate to have health benefits and things of that nature, or even not just health benefits, opportunities or resources or places to go to get checkups, do that. And then not only just getting checkups, but also just being proactive to know what's good for you and your bodies, know what's good for you as far as the foods that you take in, and how it reacts to you. So we're not gonna be, you know, I'm not causing anybody to go out there and be like some of those extremists, because you see some of them online and they very extreme with it. And if you may want to do that, that's on you. But just to be aware, to be self-conscious on, you know, start balancing your diet, start balancing time for some form of exercise, start balancing your time for some form of rest and relaxation. That's one of those places that I know me personally, I have a problem with. As far as for rest, I don't usually balance and get the amount of rest and things that I would like to, but that's something that I definitely need to take more consideration in getting that, because it also affects just your normal drive and things that you need to do. And as I was once told, you know, something that simple as far as a rest cuts down on your life expectancy, right? If you don't, you know, get enough rest, your life, you're cutting down on, you know, your body being able to maintain at a high level for a long period of time. So, you know, I say all of that to say as a lesson learned for what we learned with the brother, that, you know, we be more mindful and careful with what was given to us by the Most High as far as for our bodies, to make sure that we are taking in and doing the right things in order for the upkeep of that. So as it pertains to Brother Zakar and anything that's going to, as far as for information, as I mentioned, even during class, I have not received a lot of information. I will be, you know, keeping up, talking to Brother Gabar as far as for any information that he may receive from the immediate family of what plans that they may have as a service for him, if they're doing that, and then we can relay that, or if there's something that we wanted to take an initiative to go and do in honor for him, we'll kind of see where the family's going with that. But again, we're going to say, you know, rest in paradise to the brother, and, you know, retain the memories. And, you know, we went through a lot, you know, we just put it in perspective with the Brother Zakar. You know, for those who dialed into the classes, come to the Holy Days, you know him, you've been around him, you know, he had a good spirit, but he had some things with him, and we kind of went back and forth. Everybody has our experiences, you know, with family members, with friends. You laugh, you cry, you argue, you joke, you drink, you eat, you do a lot of different things in your times with different people that you come across in your life on the earth. And you have to bear through good and bad. But the most important thing is you want to have more righteous than anything, right? You want to have more righteous memories, want more righteous experiences and things that you've done in the earth when it's your time to depart from the earth. And that goes for everybody. That goes for anybody, even those in the world. It's the same thing. It talks about your name. I forget the scripture let me read it real quick if I can find it. Proverbs. Hopefully I find it. I know it's in Proverbs, or it might be Ecclesiastes. I think it's in Ecclesiastes. Bear with me 1 second, Israel. It's a verse that talks about the ending. No. Why can't I find this? Right. This is Ecclesiastes 7. And this comes with some understanding as I read this precept too, right? This is Ecclesiastes 7 and 8. It says, better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit, right? So better is the ending of a thing than the beginning thereof, right? So when you read in the book of Ecclesiastes and you go into the understanding of what the thing is, right? The thing is talking about man, or the spirit that's in man. And one would think that, that doesn't kind of weigh well. I mean, why would I look or consider the ending of a person's life to be the best part of it, right? You would think the experiences and everything that went on would kind of weigh in on that. However, when you are first born in this earth, you really don't have a memory. You don't have a legacy. You don't know what that person or that individual, that baby, that child is going to become or what it's going to do, right? That's where, your life experiences, you start building these things up. You could start off wicked. You could start off wrong, and then people judge you just on a baby. You being a baby, oh, this baby's going to be this, it's going to be that. No, you got to allow that person to grow and see what it's going to become. I'll use Paul as a good example. For a good portion of his life, Saul was someone who condemned or rebuked those who were followers of Yahushua. But toward the end of his life, you see now that those years that he went out and did what he did now has superseded and bypassed. He made up for all the other things that he had done. Not to say that they are without, any memory that he did certain things to certain people, but now his name lasts on for a lot of the righteous things that he did, right? So now he has built up a memory and a good name to last forever, right? So when you look at the end, right, we now draw off of memories. Like, yo, man, remember when that brother did this, or when that sister said this? Oh, man, she left a good name for herself. We're not talking about wicked or unrighteous individuals. That's why the second part of it says, and the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit, right? Those who are proud or prideful, this is not talking about them. The patient in spirit, to really deal and work with the spirit of the Most High, to be able to apply all the lessons and teachings that he's given us, and then to now build up those righteous jewels in the heaven. That's what this is dealing with. But those others, this is not talking about them. So for all of us, it's the same thing, right? Each and every day, you want to be the one who's now building up that good name, right? Storing up those fortunes in the heavens, not on earth, but in the heavens, that someone can look back and say, you know what? Man, brother Yashamiah was this way. Sister Magana was this way. Sister Zakaria was this way. Brother Zakar was whomever it may be, right? When they get to that point, that they now have these things that they can say, yeah, this man was a righteous man. This man was a sister, was a righteous woman, right? I'm not speaking specifically to them. I'm speaking in the vein of what Yahushua gave us guidance, that those of us who are left to continue that thought process, to do what is needful for us to continue to do to build up our name, because we have been called to do some great things in the Lord, whether however minuscule or however grand it is, it plays a big part. So, again, with the information, I'll say rest in paradise to the brother. Lord's will, more information to follow on that. And we'll see what we can do. But with that being said, Again, next week, the water, we're going to be in Acts 24:25. The water for the brothers for putting out the information. Again, if anybody wants to reach out, I'll reach out to the brother to see what things are being done for him. But for the remaining of the Sabbath, make sure everybody stays in the spirit. Go and do some research. Start to expand in your spirit, right? Don't waste the time. Sometimes we do that. We just let time go and we really don't take advantage of the time, or we take it for granted. And then we find out that it's too late, or I just wasted a whole week, or I wasted, whatever. And I could have really done something productive that was not only going to help myself out, but help others out. So, if it's cold right now. I think it was like 20 something degrees here in Philly. I'm not sure what it is in other areas. It got up right up to the freezing point, and it's not going beyond that. So, stay warm, check on others. For those who are in the area, you got neighbors, they just because they're not in the truth, there's your spiritual, your national neighbors of your people, check on them, right? Just to make sure you see them coming and going, everything is cool. It may lack certain things, but do due diligence to be brotherly, kindly, sisterly kind to those that surround you, because that's what we're obligated and commanded to do in the mean season of the winter, as we read in the scriptures. So again, have a remaining blessed Shabbat or Sabbath. Most High's will. We're here to see each other during the classes the upcoming week. Kudos to you, brother. Make sure a lot of us write down your questions. Write them down. Write thoughts that you may have. Sometimes they come and go, but write them down in a book. Write them down or notate them on your phone, and then bring them to the classes, because that's what kind of makes the classes a little bit more entertaining and livelier when we're all participating and bring forth thoughts.
Hey, shalom, brother.
Hey, shalom, Gabara. How you doing?
Yeah, I just tuned in for a couple minutes. Hey, I'm gonna ask you. You said that Saul didn't like nobody who didn't like Jesus. You said that?
Saul, not King Saul. Let me rephrase what your question. So Saul, before he became Paul, he was one that persecuted the church, persecuted anyone who was
I'm getting King Saul mixed up.
Yeah. So I purposely said Saul because that's what his name was when he was a Pharisee doing those types of acts to the church and persecuting the church. And then afterwards, his name was changed to Paul when you read it in Acts. So yeah, I wasn't talking about King Saul. Yeah, come.
I understand now.
All right, come.
First I didn't understand.
All right, come. Dwada for dialing in, brother. I'll probably give you a call after the service to check up on you.
Okay, brother.
All right, come. All right, so with that, we'll say shalom, peace to the brothers and sisters. We're going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh Shah for knowledge, wisdom, understanding, for comfort, for health, for protection, for guidance, right? And for understanding in these last days to allow us to maintain and to keep forging on, right? So we thank the Most High for that by Hashem Yahweh Shah, in the name of Yahweh Shah, that gives us the spirit to do all things. So with that, stay tuned for the closing prayers. And again, shalom. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Nathalanao, Par, Yahagapin, Tawada Amun, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Af Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, with Israel. A might upon you, all Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Babakushah, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalak, Mayaka Allah, Waha Allahayim, Tazawadakim, La, Shemal Ayel, Barak, Rapah, Magun, Wahakaziyak, Banya, Yasha Allah, Washalak, Lanawa, Rabium, Kakama, Rabium Da'aith, Rabium Bayana, Rabium Sabalungwa, Rabium Amawan, Rabium Aqua, Rabium Ahabium, Rabium Hagana, Rakanayam, Wasalak, Ko, Kata'ayam Nawa, Laha'akim, Wa Akiwath, Wayasha Allah, Thum Yad, Wa Iwalam, Basham, Yahawasha, Thawada, Amun. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers and angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection, and forgive all our sins. For the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. Four Corners Prayer. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wahabiyah Saparium, Shema, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa. Yahweh Echad. English translation. Most High, in the name of Christ, bless us and Israel and the house of books, or the different schools. And Deuteronomy 6:4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. Again, Ashar Shabbat. Have a blessed remaining Sabbath. Peace and blessings. Shalom.
Shalom, Israel.